Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's so great to reconnect with so many of you that we've known for so many years. It's wonderful to be back in Connecticut. I know most of you know that Donnie is originally from Connecticut, but in fact there were some of you that I learned have worked with him for the past maybe 2 or 3 years and didn't realize that he had a practice here many years ago. So Donnie, as you know, is a pioneer in this work, and he's been doing this for nearly 30 years. And so we're very happy to still have so many wonderful relationships with so many of you in Connecticut, New York area. So we're very happy to be here. And I'm very honored that all of you would make the time in your schedules to come be here tonight and learn about Mederi Foundation. I'm the executive director of the foundation, and we actually formed the foundation in the year 2005. So last year, in 2015, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary. So I want to thank many of you who have supported us over the years, and you can be very proud for what we've accomplished since that time. And we've had a lot of we have a very big vision, which you'll hear more about tonight. And Donnie has devoted his life to this work, and we have a lot more to be doing. But we've accomplished many of the key objectives that we originally set out to do, and now we actually have many opportunities that are coming our way. And so we want to continue to grow and expand and make our programs more accessible to more people. So tonight you're going to learn more about Mederi Foundation, our mission, our vision, our accomplishments, our goals. And so you'll also hear a little bit about Donnie's approach if you're not already familiar with that. I know many of you are, but he's not going to go into depth tonight about anything really technical. But we will have some time at the end of the talk to talk about, to answer your questions. If you have any questions that are health related, all of us have been touched by someone with cancer in our lives. And we hear this every day, all the time. We're going to hear tonight from one amazing patient who's here with us, Roy Alexander, and he's going to share a testimonial at the end of the night about his experience of working with Donnie and working in an integrative sense in collaboration with his medical team and how well he's done. So this is a great evening for us to share, and I'm so appreciative of your time to hear what we're doing. And we also, I passed around some donor packets, and those you can look at later, look at now while you're listening, but that just has our annual report and some information about Mederi. And we also are giving you a book, a copy of Donnie's book, Adaptogens in Medical Herbalism. It's really more of a health Bible. It's got 17 chapters on all different areas of health. It's really, the subtitle tells it better. It's Elite Herbs and Natural Compounds for Mastering Stress, Chronic Disease, and Aging. So it's really a book about lifestyle. It covers cardiovascular health, neurological health, lifestyle, diet, and it has 66 monographs if you're into that, and I think 4,000 references, and it weighs 4.5 pounds. So you can spend, keep it by your bedside table at night, and you'll have some good reading. So that was 10 years in the making. That was something that we published in 2013. So it's fairly new still, and it's Donnie's life's work. I wanted to thank our chef. I don't know where they went, but our chef tonight, Chef Pierre, and our team, Jamie and Captain Michael. And I want to thank, most of all, our wonderful host, Barbara Slane. She's on the board of the foundation, and she's an amazing, graceful gift. So she invited us to do this, and I'm very grateful. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to get started, and Donnie will have a short presentation followed by Roy, and we also have Michael Schoen in the room, and some of you were talking to Michael earlier. Michael is on the board of the James Cancer Center at Ohio State University, and he has been instrumental in helping see this clinical trial forward, which you'll hear a little bit about tonight. And so after Roy comes up and shares a little bit, Michael's going to come up just for a couple minutes and tell you about that relationship, that partnership that we've been embarking upon for 6 years now. So thank you again for being here, and I'm going to pass it over to Donnie, and welcome, Donnie.
Okay, well, welcome everyone, and I'd also like to extend my thanks to Barbara. Thank you so much, Barbara. This is really awesome, and I feel like almost in a way I have extended family here, and really honestly, the Scores family I feel like is an extended family of mine, and so many of you I've known for a very long time, and a couple of people I'm just meeting for the first time, so it's really wonderful. I'd like to honor Claire Stone that's here because I don't know if I'd have a foundation if it wasn't for her husband, Alan, who really started this whole thing out with me. And when I started, he just basically handed me $50,000 and got a couple of other people to donate just like that, and boom, we were off and running. And so Alan is very instrumental, and I hold his energy very close to my heart, and I'm really happy to have Claire here with us as well. So this presentation is one that Jen put together, and it's more about the foundation. It's not a presentation that is one of mine that would really teach you the ins and outs about Mederi medicine in a very intimate way, and kind of like what it is that we really do clinically. So, so we'll learn first of all about our mission. The mission of Mederi is to optimize health and promote longevity, and to improve quality of life of those facing chronic disease, especially cancer. I first, back for those that have known me a long time, 25 plus years, I wasn't that much a specialist, I would say. I had a very general practice, everything from small children and acute illnesses, you name it. And then one day, a woman I began to work with, her name was Sinclair Williams, a young woman in her 30s with breast cancer. And we renamed her in our clinic from Sinclair to St. Clair, because here is this woman in her 30s, beautiful woman with very aggressive advanced breast cancer, and just, kind of what I would say, back then, it was, a lot of butchery was done, very aggressive surgeries, high dose radiation, things that people don't do. And she just went through such hardship in her life, and yet she embraced it so saintly and so beautifully. I mean, I said, wow, this, and I was just so moved by her presence, and we got very close, like I like to do. I mean, I love what I do because of the intimacy it brings to me. I mean, I really love the people I work with. I'm not afraid to just dive my whole being into what I do. And so after she passed, her parents came in and brought me this ring right here, and said, Sinclair finished this yesterday, and wanted to make sure you had this. And I said, God, the last thing she did on the face of the planet was make a ring for me. And I said, well, I actually know my calling now. I've always been looking for my calling. I lived in a Franciscan monastery 3 years. I ran a soup kitchen, a shelter, and always just looking for what God was really calling me to do. And I said, this is it. This is really what I'm supposed to do. And I've never taken this ring off my finger in all those years. And so there was something I said, now I'm going to do everything I can to learn everything about cancer and just help people more and more. And to this day, I have never stopped there. I spend hours researching, collecting data, seeing patients, training practitioners. I just go and go and go. And this was my starting point. So, so that is how we got intimately involved in really creating this model around integrative care for cancer patients, and also for chronic disease, aging, which is what the book is about. That book is not a book on cancer, although it has a great chapter on cancer. It's a book for everyone. There's a book on bone health, a book on heart health, a book on weight management, a book on diet, a book on spirituality and healing, a book on athletics, a book on understanding the metabolic model of aging. There's 65 monographs in it. So it really is my life's work. and yet, what I really focus on is cancer. But as you'll see when we get into this, there are common threads around aging and cancer that are really important. So our mission is to provide a comprehensive approach towards the transformation of healthcare for individuals and institutions. And we are doing that. Our vision is to disseminate a comprehensive, collaborative approach to healing as the leading edge model by which healthcare professionals develop personalized health building interventions and treatment regimes. To provide an innovative framework that integrates the fullest array of botanical, which is my background, botanical medicine, nutritional medicine, which is my background, and biomedical principles to enhance patients' vitality and longevity. And you'll see in a little while about the toolboxes and how we bring the toolboxes together. And then how can this be achieved? By widespread dissemination of what we call Mederi medicine. The name of the medical system in the professional circles is called ETMS. So the practitioners that I've trained are all now calling themselves ETMS practitioners. So people that have trained with me actually can use that label and say I'm an ETMS practitioner, which stands for the Eclectic Triphasic Medical System. But that's a mouthful for people to take. So our foundation's called Mederi, so a lot of people have switched over in a common way and just say, I do Mederi medicine. And so it's another kind of alternative word to use for the ETMS. And the word Mederi comes from the Latin word, which means to heal and be whole. It's the same root word as medicine and medicinal. All of that comes from that word Mederi, and some Latin scholars might say Mederi and not Mederi. I've heard that before, but we say Mederi. So what is Mederi medicine? It's based on the eclectic triphasic medical system, because all over the country you just hear people talking, oh, integrative medicine. All the institutions say we have integrative medicine. You go there and what they do is they do standard of care medicine, and then they may have an acupuncturist. They may have a visual therapist there. They may offer a yoga class. That's not integration. That's a couple of complementary things to just standard of care. So I've created a model, a clinical, a model that can be clinically implemented in institutions across the country. And that's what I focus on. And it's a working model. It's not a theory. It's a model that actually can work. So ETMS is clinically and scientifically based as an integrative model for personalized and adaptive therapy. So personalized means that we do certain things based on the individual and based on their presentation as what I call the host factors, the microenvironment, which is assessed through laboratory tests, and then the tumor as an entity into itself. And so our diagnostics are all about that, and so the treatment plan is personalized based on that, and it's adaptive in the way that it's changing. If you see a protocol with someone that's been with me 10 years, it's always changing a little bit. So it's not, here's your therapy and try it, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, we're constantly working harder and harder to get people better and better and keep them well, and keep on evaluating and implementing, change, because everything is changing. So does the protocol. So the ETMS provides an innovative framework for creating personalized regimes focused on whole systems approach to patient care. That's what we do. Strategically implements advanced clinical diagnostics with modern scientific techniques to aid in the successful selection and application of the most appropriate, effective medicines. So I've developed in a philosophical sense, I call it the thematic elements of the ETMS. So what are those elements? One element is ancient and traditional medicine, so it's very valid. Another element is scientific and what I call knowledge. It's based in the mind. And I'll always say wisdom trumps knowledge. Wisdom is more important than knowledge. And everyone jumps on the internet thinking they're going to learn what to do for something. And 90% of what you're being fed into your brain is false information. It's not true information. And so wisdom is very, very important, and it's ancient. We learn wisdom from our grandparents. That's where we learn it from. And today, people don't have time for that. They think they can just learn everything on the computer. So in traditional models like traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and our great system in America was called the eclectic medical system. Those are foundational to what we do, but then they're limited. They're all limited. But if you take them and then combine them with modern scientific information, and then what I call common sense logic, and intuition, what I call musical intuition, which is the artistry of medicine. And the most important thing is infuse them with prayer and love, because mostly in medicine is fear and ego. And so everyone has to come to that table. Like, I think Michael was talking about, the chaplain and what they do. And I want everyone to be infused with the same thought, and working together in this very intimate way, in this goal of just pouring our hearts and souls into the work that we do, no matter what. So we strategically implement advanced clinical diagnostics, modern scientific techniques to aid in the successful selection and application of the most appropriate, effective medicine. So I've learned that I can do the best with botanical medicine, nutritional medicine, dietary medicine, lay this all out. But if patients are going and getting poor allopathic medicine that's not helping them, it's hurting them, then the patient's not going to get well. So the whole key is to get all of the medicine synchronized together, the best of what we can do for everyone. That's really the key. Synergistically combining these things together. Because what one toolbox can do, the other can't do. What you can do with herbs, you can't do with drugs, and what you can do with drugs, you can't do with herbs. What you can do with nutrition, you can't do with herbs. If someone is immune compromised and you put the best herbs together for them and there's zinc levels in the cellar, they're still not going to get well. There's basic things that need to be cross-pollinated to really see this really work. So here's a slide I threw in there. Don't tell Jen. So the treatment for cancer is evolving, but so is the tumor. Cancer today is way more, the phenotype of the cancer is way different than it was 50 years ago. I mean, just like bacteria are morphing, so is cancer. And so as we're evolving, more and more sophisticated treatments, the cancer is getting more sophisticated, because the stem cells, most of the treatment that are going after what I call the cancer, the visible cancer, are not targeting the stem cells, which is the invisible cancer. And a lot of them agitate those stem cells. And what we've learned to date, that the most effective treatment to down-regulating and targeting the stem cells are botanical compounds. They actually target the stem cells. And so, so that's why the marriaging of both therapies is really, really important to see consistent, what I call consistent, optimal results occur. But this requires institutions to be willing to think a little bit outside of the box. Do you think they are ready for that? Never, ever think outside of the box. That's the cat. So this is the obstacle that we run into. And so they have to be willing to basically, because they want to look at one single endpoint or one single component of what you do and just break it apart and give it to every patient, one herb or one herb compound. And we're never going to see the monumental change we need to. People are suffering and unfortunately dying unnecessarily if we really can implement this successfully. So one way that I look at things, I like threes. I like things in forms of three. I think strategically in threes very often. So how I break down, and this is sort of an icon of the ETMS, and it's changed since then. But one is that we look at the branch one is the human being, the constitutional and energetic profile of the person, and you can see all of these have meaning. These are the three energies right here, the vital force, the vital essence, and the vital spirit, where the spirit is the everlasting energy. You have the five, just like in Chinese medicine, the 5 organ systems, the liver, the spleen, the lungs, the heart, and the kidneys. And those are the 5 organ systems. And then you have the balance of inward energy, which is the yin energy, and outward energy, which is the yang energy. And this is infused not just in a separate component as TCM. This is infused in the whole system of medicine. We've taken it into that place. And then it's all about bringing heaven to earth. And so if you saw this in its full, you'd see a halo. Well, you can see the halo, that's heaven, and then underneath it, it's earth. And so I always see the pursuit of life is to bridge heaven and earth together. And so all we do, that's what drives me, is like this work is just all about bridging that. How we can create heaven on earth. That's what it's all about. And I think it's possible to do that. So the second branch is the exogenous environment. That could be past, present, and potentially future. everything around you that is creating either ill health, or maybe we can change and make better health, or we can implement in a protocol something that protects you from the external forces that are, detrimental to your health. And the third branch is the biological terrain, which we'll get into now in a second. And this is the way that I teach it now to all the practitioners. It's a little different, and it breaks it down in this way. So we have the host factors, which is you and I, what we present as a person. We have and that's very subjective, and it's looking at people's eyes, looking, often talking to them and hearing how they frame their sentences, how they breathe. All of those things are taken into consideration. And our job is to not just have patients be who they are, but to turn everyone into a super healthy person, to maximize their health. No matter where they are, if they have poor health, make it as great as possible, because that's very, very essential. The second thing is the microenvironment, which you mostly do through laboratory tests. And so we do a whole array of tests to see often nutrient levels, inflammatory biomarkers, prothrombotic markers. I mean, there's a long list of things. And the objective here is to make this environment the most conducive to the host and the least conducive to the tumor, or to assess it from a standpoint of the tumor, because a cancer cannot grow more than 2 centimeters without altering the microenvironment. So when it's doing this, you can find clues and you can change that. So we're going to change this environment to be conducive to the host, and here alter it in a way that's non-conducive to the tumor. That's an essential component, but that's not all. So we're maximizing our host. The third now is like, what do we do to target the tumor? So we're going to look at an array of molecular biomarkers, and both with botanical medicine, maybe a little nutritional medicine, but now pharmaceutical medicine, look at the best things that target that tumor. And maybe if you're seeing the cancer like a bunch of cars in the road, maybe the drugs are taking care of the main freeways. They're taking the freeway, the parkway, and they're putting roadblocks up to stop or slow down that cancer. But cancer's very intelligent. Those cars will spin off and find the little small streets, find another way. Well, that allows us to change that environment, make it very difficult, and then with botanical medicine, blanket those more, what I call big guns with herbal therapy that really help to modulate and buffer those other pathways. And you put this all together, and all of a sudden, people consistently get well. And so our toolboxes are right here. So I always say, William Shakespeare says, small herbs have grace, great weeds to grow apace. Herbs, I call it the humble medicine, because they're not glamorous. We're all looking at what's going to make this tumor disappear tomorrow, and then have the tumor come back in 2 months and kill the person, where you go sometimes with an herbal regime, and maybe the tumor even keeps growing, but we slow it down to a point that it grows 10% 1 year and then stabilizes, and lo and behold, you never actually got rid of the cancer. But the person's now, I talked about someone today that's lived 20 years with me, a stage 4 cancer patient, 20 years. And I honestly say they've never been cancer-free in 20 years. But stage 4 cancer, refractory to all treatment, and he's still alive. He's a Catholic priest in Toronto, actually. Runs the biggest church in Toronto. And he still lives a very high-quality life. But he's never actually been deemed cancer-free. And so it's not all black and white. It's not always that way. So, but pharmaceuticals are really good at getting things to disappear or look very glamorous. Herbs tend to be very humble. We ate tonight a couple of really humble foods. Sunchokes, which are native to here. One of the reasons why I picked them, that's a native food to where we live. This is where it first was found, in northeast of America. And it's the richest food in prebiotics. It has inulin in it, which regulates insulin, and it really helps our gut health, and that was one of the foods that we ate. And the other one was nettles, which I consider the healthiest, most important green to be eating, and it's just a humble weed, basically. And so I'm always looking at the humility, what I call of God in nature, basically. And so then we have lifestyle medicine, which can be physical activity, being with nature, meditation classes, yoga, all of those things that add. Nutritional medicine, which is supplemental medicine, and then dietary medicine is what we're doing. And I have a dietary presentation that can be anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 days long. 500 slides I have just on food as medicine for cancer now. So those are the toolboxes, and then the psycho-spiritual influence of the practitioner is part of the treatment effect. So you need to all be, that's very, very important as well. Not necessarily to just be falsely optimistic. I'm a very optimistic person, but even more than optimism, I believe in hope and faith. And hope transcends optimism. Optimism is psychological, and the only thing that matters is what's happening in the world as we see it. Hope is spiritual, it's theological, and involves God in everything. So in our model, we basically have done this. We want to try to get oncologists to be ETMS friendly, so I want to train oncologists, and then the practitioner, which I've trained, which now I'm ready to build a 2 or 3 year school where people come and study for 2 to 3 years, because that's how much material I have now. And then all of a sudden they have mutual respect for each other, and it's kind of participatory medicine. And then the microenvironment, the oncologist works with the practitioner with that, and then reviewing all pathology tests together, the tumor phenotype, discovering the phenotype. So that's the way that I see this working. And then advantages of this based is like improve immune system response and recover, inhibit or lessen the long-term damage caused by conventional therapy, so we can even do that, improve bone marrow function, recovery caused by conventional agents, and nourishment. A big focus of what we do is nourish, not stimulate necessarily, nourish, modulate. Nourishment's a very important word, and humans need 3 kinds of nourishment. One is earthly, which is the food that we eat. 2 is celestial, which is how well we breathe. One of the things with yoga is it really teaches you how to oxygenate your body and breathe better. Not to mention other things, but that's really important. How you oxygenate your cells is celestial energy, and 3rd is spiritual energy. Those are the spiritual nourishment. Those are all 3 very important. Significantly reduce cancer-related fatigue, which is a major problem, and pain. Protect vital organs such as liver and kidney and brain. You've heard of chemo brain and things like that. Reduce symptoms of cachexia, which happens to everyone. You don't have to have cancer to start having, cachexia. My whole book, the premise of my book and the premise of my whole focus is on how do we accentuate anabolic metabolism and decrease catabolic metabolism. Every chronic disease has that common theme, whether it be osteoporosis, heart disease. We're all, even in athletes, you see athletes in their 30s not being able to compete anymore because they're more catabolic than anabolic. So this whole concept, and 40% of cancer patients die of cachexia, wasting syndrome. And so part of the building the foundation is restoring anabolic metabolism. That's part of that nourishment. And we do that again with our toolboxes, diet, lifestyle, mostly botanical and nutritional medicine. Suppress tumor progression, so we're also involved in targeting the tumor as well. Increase the sensitivity of drugs that people are taking, make the drugs sensitized and reduce what's called multi-drug resistance. These are all things that we do. So now we'll quickly talk about our programs. Our foundation is focused around education, educating healthcare. The only thing I don't do for the medical profession is my blog. And so I'll just tell you my blog is my name, Donnie, Yance, DONNIE.com. And I write a blog every single week, and it's either on food or it's on I did 3 weeks of blogging on thyroid health, on weight management through a concept called intuitive eating, which is a whole new way of thinking about a relationship with food, a healthy relationship. And then I did one on sunchokes with a couple of recipes, and so I did one on dandelion greens, and then about once a month I do a kind of a spirituality blog as well. Everything else I do is really trying to change the medical system, working with practitioners, training them. And so education is a big component of our foundation. Patient care, we have a clinic, I have another practitioner, we have 2 other doctors coming this fall to join our practice. So I'm in the trenches, that's what I do, 30 plus hours a week with patients, that's what I am. So everything else I do is on top of that. And then research, this is a big and growing area of our foundation. We have so many opportunities right now, but it takes so much work, and Michael's going to talk a little bit about what's been going on with Ohio State, but just so you know, tomorrow morning, Jen and I wake up bright and early, hop on the train in Stanford, get to Baltimore, 12 o'clock, I'm presenting to the entire oncology department at Sinai Hospital in Baltimore, to the entire administrative department and the CEO and president of the hospital. We're getting a tour of the hospital, and then we're having meetings all day long about the potential of creating an integrative or collaborative medical center with Sinai Hospital. I don't know, I only want to do this, I only want to dive in if they're really serious. I don't want to just crawl, I want to really say we're ready to go. Otherwise, I'm not. And if they do, then I'll really devote myself to this possibility. But again, our whole foundation is basically myself, Jen, and Marini. So you know who we are. And here we are, we're talking with Ohio State, with Sinai Hospital, with Bellinson Hospital in Israel, with Mercy Hospital. I mean, these major institutions are all calling for us, to be involved. And it's truly exciting, but we need help now. So education programs that we've done, clinical training. So I do clinical training, week-long clinical trainings for MDs, oncologists, NDs, acupuncturists, herbalists. And there's sort of a foundational level, or a level 1, a level 2, and then actually this past year we did even a 3rd level, which was just me presenting case studies so that they could see kind of how all the pieces fit together. And then we also do a weekly, I do a network with about 30 of the graduates we've had, which is about 100, that they're all interly connected to each other. They chat with each other. They ask me questions pretty much every day. And I send out an email to this group, to this ETMS roundtable group, of all my research that I do every day, and all the updates of monographs on herbs that I write, or papers that I write on chemosensitivity, and so they get all of this information. Then once a month on the phone, I review 4 to 5 case studies with them that one of the several of them will present in first come first serve, and they fill out a whole bunch of paperwork. They send in all the molecular tests, all the blood work, and then I work about a half hour trying to put the pieces together with them. And so that's been very successful. That's done on the first Thursday of every month. So I oversee, to some degree, the integrative team at Bellinson Hospital in Israel as well. I'm training and still teaching them. So we also have a tumor board meeting that we host in our town of Ashland with with a surgeon and other practitioners in the area. So that's what we do locally. We do very little locally. We're really kind of a global entity. We're not about our local area. I mean, our vision is very, very big. And to be honest with you, most of my work is on the East Coast. I mean, I'm here, but Baltimore is really big. Everything seems to be more active going east than it is actually where we live. But like I said, the vision now is a global vision for us. And these are all the accomplishments that we've done. Graduated over 100 students, completed a phase 1 of comprehensive plan to deliver Mederi medicine, and gone abroad. As you'll see here, this is me. This is all in Hebrew. And this is the all day when I lectured at the main auditorium in the hospital, and the biggest hospital in Tel Aviv. And that's me in front of the hospital in Bellinson. I was there the entire week from like 8:30 in the morning to 5:30 teaching and training. I lectured to 65 oncologists. They had me lecture to the dietitians who were really opposed to really eating healthy. They just still think, the dietitians think, and just forcing calories into people is the way to go. And the whole integrative team is saying, no, we don't want them to have all that sugar and everything. And so they were at each other. So Dr. Caspi says, Donnie, can you please, I'm going to get all the integrative practitioners and all the dietitians in the same room, and somehow you got to make harmony here. And so I put a special presentation just for that talk, and it went incredibly well. I gently kind of, with a lot of good data and research, kind of taught the dietitians about immunonutrition, basically, how nutrition helps the immune system and what you want to be feeding these people and recommending. And I work with them. Here's the team, the team in Israel that I work with. And Sharon here, this one here, she's been out training with me several times, and she's a fantastic practitioner and one of the best natural food cooks you'll ever find, in the world. But all of these people, they've been out. These two, he stayed at our house. He's been out to Oregon, and he's been out to Oregon, and so yeah. And I speak with him or email with him weekly. And that's the oncologist, Dr. Caspi there, that kind of runs that team. And then so Mederi has patient care programs, improving quality of life, increasing longevity, and I think another big component is trying to reduce the medical costs too. I really feel if you can get people healthier with this integrative model, we can save, the bankruptcy of our healthcare system right now. Outside of the research and the education, we also do patient scholarship programs now. We want to be able to have people that can't afford our medicine get it. So that's a new area. So we have a scholarship fund that people can actually donate to, and it helps offset the cost to some people that can't afford our treatment. They have to be under our umbrella for at least 6 months, but then we provide support for them. One woman is a African-American woman, Citrice, and she just came out with a book on her experience working with Mederi. You have in your pamphlet a little bit of some excerpts from her book called A 5-Time Cancer Survivor. When I started working with her, and she's in Alabama, she was a high-ranked officer in the Iraq War, actually, advanced breast cancer, bedridden on morphine drip, and I still figured out, and again, it wasn't enough to just give her herbal medicine. I looked at her pathology, and she was equivocal on HER2/neu, which is a test, which means they don't get Herceptin. You don't get HER2/neu treatment unless you're definitely 3+. And I said, well, you're borderline, and that was a while ago. Why don't we run your serum HER2/neu? And it was way, way elevated. And I said, this is a HER2/neu driven cancer. So I spoke to the oncologist. I said, let's get this in, let's get that in. They got on board. She got on her program, and lo and behold, this is like 5 years later, she's completely fine. But if I didn't figure that out, if I didn't test that blood, if I didn't figure that out, there's no way I could have just with my toolbox gotten her well. It had to be through pounding away. They don't even know what serum HER2/neu is, and I sent it to another oncologist on another patient, and the woman, she's in Long Island, and she goes, we've never run serum HER2/neu, what is that? And I sent her the paper I wrote just on serum HER2/neu, and she goes, oh, you should get that published. That's what she said to me, the oncologist. She goes, I said, just run the test for me, and so that was great. So we have a GMP compliant dispensary, so when people get custom formulas, we do liquid tonics, we do custom teas, we do suppositories, topical formulas. It's taken a lot of work and effort to get our dispensary basically GMP compliant. And we're just a small little entity, and so we're still not 100% there, we're just about there, but it's really taken a lot of work to get to that level. And we provide the highest quality of botanical and nutritional medicine you can get. And our dispensary now is serving all of these other practitioners that have graduated because they then can work with me to compound custom formulas for their patients, and I do that. And so it's been a great service outside of just my own practice, and that's what I'm trying to do. So what our major accomplishments are recruited full-time and ETMS trained naturopathic doctors. So Dr. Susan Sakamono is a naturopathic doctor full-time in our clinic now, and we have an MD and a PhD coming this fall. I work very closely with Dr. Sue with all of her patients. We launched a patient aid program, basically giving financial assistance to a lot of patients, which Citrice was one of them. And recruit and hire a key executive staff to manage the clinic operations. And so, I feel like our infrastructure is very good and very strong. And then our research programs, key objective is feasibility, quality of life, overall survival, and cost comparison. That's what I'm mostly going after in the institutions that we're working with, that we're partnering up with. Is Ohio State, which Michael's going to speak about in a second. And then we're also launching a clinical trial with the Children's Hospital of Orange County with children with cancer undergoing an anthracycline-based chemotherapy protocol that have lymphoma and sarcomas. And that's a pretty straightforward trial. All the children are getting on this chemo, this standard of care chemo regime, and we're just showing with very little support that we can dramatically increase their quality of life and particularly reduce mucositis and stomatitis, or basically get rid of it. And 80% of children suffer immensely with that on this regime. And so it really hinders their ability to eat, and they suffer a lot. And I said, this is a piece of cake for us. This is going to be like no problem, And so we're going to be flying down there to present to the IRB basically in October at the Children's Hospital of Orange County. And then we've written a protocol for Mercy Hospital in Baltimore for GI tract cancers with a very famous Dr. Armando Sardi, who is probably the leading edge gastric surgeon in cancer. And then Sinai Hospital tomorrow. We're going to see where that takes us. So this is a lot of work for just, us all doing lots of other things. So we're trying to basically bring more people in to make this all happen. And so a couple of quotes I'll leave you with. A friend of mine, actually, Glenn Sabin, wrote, "A whole person's multi-interventional synergistic approaches to scientific exploration will lead the way to 21st century personalized integrative oncology care." And so major accomplishments, research, develop a clinical trial with Ohio State. This is on the forefront of what we want to do. It was a breast cancer trial combining stage 4 breast cancer originally, combining our treatment with 2 drugs. One is an aromatase inhibitor and the other would have been an mTOR inhibitor called everolimus. We're shifting the trial now, excitingly, to an immunotherapy trial. Also maybe breast cancer, maybe ovarian cancer as well, using what's called a PD-L1 inhibitor, and us then supporting with that, as you will hear from Michael. And this tells you more about it, but I won't go on because Michael will say more about the trial in a second. And here's Dr. Agnes Horvath. This is me when I lectured at the Children's Hospital in Orange County. She is probably my favorite oncologist in the whole world, right there. She's brilliant, and on Sunday night, we're at 11:30 at night, I'm in the airport at Salt Lake City, and she sends a text to Jen about a 21-year-old that has a fast-growing sarcoma on her shoulder, refractory to everything they've done, refractory to all the chemotherapy, got a little bit of response to what's called an ALK inhibitor, and so I worked with her on a little protocol 11:30 at night to try to help this 21-year-old, but she's constantly asking me to help her with her patients, and she's amazing. Any kids that can't afford the protocol, she pays for it herself. She's a full-time working oncologist. She's completely broke. She gives everything away. She's just so saintly and so beautiful, and so that's the hospital she works at, and she's head of palliative care there. And I've gotten to be really close to most of the doctors there. So support from Mederi's research institution. It's very important that good quality research be done in integrative medicine to validate this and move it forward. We have to validate. We need more such research done and more interactions between practitioners and researchers around the exploration of new approaches to cancer management. And that's from Jeffrey White, who is on our scientific advisory board, who's been a very big supportive. He's at NIH, very big supportive of our trial with Ohio State. And we're also in a woman who has volunteered all of her time and also been instrumental. She's doing a retrospect analysis of 20 of my breast cancer patients that are all stage 3, stage 4, that have been with me anywhere from 2 to 14 or 15 years with that age. And preliminary observation of the data shows an overall reduction in serum tumor markers and stable or benign disease. All patients had significant histories of cancer before working with me. And she's been amazing. Her name's Catherine Niemeyer, and she's just a wonderful, wonderful person. So the Mederi protocols, this was a quote from her, for cancer patients are very comprehensive, holistic, and dynamic. Likewise, is Donnie's approach. The treatment prescriptions morph with every change in the patient's lab, symptoms, or conditions. That's the adaptation of the protocol. And then I leave you with a couple of, one of my quotes and a St. Francis quote. Cancer is not a curse, nor is it a gift. It all depends on how we choose to respond to it. And then I always say St. Francis is a big inspiration to me. Start by doing what is necessary, then what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. Thank you, and I will let Roy say a few words now.
I'm 73. I wanted to say that because I grew up and I was taught that the medical system is something that basically, that's the final word. I grew up with parents who really worshipped the medical systems and the doctors, what they said, that was it. So I have to say I'm still skeptical, even though I've never done better. I am still skeptical because it's just part of how I grew up. I can't help it. But I just want to say that my blood work is better than it's ever been. To me, which is incontrovertible demonstration of the collaboration, that the work with Donnie and what I'm going through at the hospitals on the clinical trials is doing, because all the treatment, I was diagnosed with lymphoma probably, I had CLL, and then I was diagnosed with lymphoma I think about 2010. It's very aggressive lymphoma. And all the treatment I had, whether it was surgery or chemotherapy or radiation, it just kind of tore me down. I mean, it just kind of, I was just becoming more debilitated as a side effect of the treatment. And now, since I've been working with Donnie, I mean, I'm having a quality of life that's better than I've ever experienced. And I've only been with him for a year, about 18 months. Excuse me, about 20 months. And I remember when when I first met Donnie here, I was, and Lynn, my friend Lynn, by the way, introduced me to Donnie. I have to say, I'm very fortunate that Donnie, against his better judgment, on the one visit said, I'm accepting a few patients, a few more patients that I have no time for. So I feel fortunate that I was one of those that he accepted to treat. But when I first met Donnie, he had just published that book, and I was very proud to say that I had a stem cell transplant. And I felt that I was on the leading technological edge of curing cancer. And the first thing Donnie said to me was, well, if you were with me, that might not have been necessary. Oh my God. I mean, and so a year later, fortunately, Donnie accepted a few more patients, and I've been working with him. And I said to the doctor at Memorial Sloan Kettering, where he's being treated, that I asked, at first I didn't even want to tell them that I was being treated, because it's a bureaucracy, it's a huge corporation. And I was afraid if I said anything, they were going to send me hiking, because they would say, oh, we can't have any interruption with what we're doing because there's a variable you're introducing and we don't know how it's going to affect, that kind of line of reasoning, which is, you can't even argue against the doctor when they talk like that, because, I mean, it just sounds so logical. We can't introduce another variable. And so I decided I was going to share with this doctor that I was working with Donnie. And I was prepared if they said my way or the highway, I was prepared to just work with Donnie and say goodbye. I mean, I was really nervous about it, but I was prepared to do that. And so fortunately, this doctor decided to talk to Donnie, and we had a collaboration. And then I moved over to Weill Cornell, where I'm on a clinical trial. I also managed to get Donnie and help arrange that Donnie and the doctor I'm working with can also have a conversation. So turns out that the first doctor at Memorial Sloan Kettering was of Italian descent. Yeah. And the second doctor at Weill Cornell was Canadian. And Donnie says he gets along well with foreign doctors. It's just the U.S. practitioners that he has a hard time with.
I really liked Dr. Charles Santano. He's really great to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to honor you by saying that I've never met a man, I've never met a person who can treat the whole person. If you have a conversation with Donnie, and as I do when I have a consult with him over the phone, he'll just ask me questions about things in my life that I haven't even thought to discuss with him, or I haven't thought that were relevant. And then he'll somehow tie that in to changing his protocol or tweaking his protocol so that it will better help me and provide a balanced way of approaching what I'm dealing with. Just little tiny things. Like wearing compression socks, for instance, because I was complaining that my energy was low. You know, I mean, if you say that to a doctor at a hospital, you know, they'll try to probably write you a prescription for something. Was having trouble breathing using a neti pot. Now I know what a neti pot is, but I've never really tried it. And just simple little things like that to more complex things that have to do with the actual protocol have really helped. And anytime I've spoken to my doctors about it, I mean, they're well-meaning. I deal with doctors who are well-meaning and they're specialized and they're very busy. But they're so into their niche that it's impossible to get them to render or to even think about some of the things I want to talk about. And that's where Donnie can really helps. And he can talk the language. He talks the language of these doctors. And so when I first spoke to Dr. Gersitano at Memorial Sloan Kettering, I was afraid every time I mentioned that I'm working with an alternative or an herbalist, I knew that they thought that that somebody was going to speak to them about coming from the vitamin shop, you know, with the latest cure for cancer. And I had to persuade them that this is somebody who's really knowledgeable and can speak their language. And so it's just phenomenal. And so I'm willing to, whether it's Skype or in person, I'm willing to be a testimonial to you, to any person or institution that you're speaking to. I have a very aggressive cancer, and when I went to Weill Cornell, they told me that if I had no treatment, I had 3 to 6 months to live. And I've never felt better. And that doesn't mean that things can't change instantly, but so far, I never thought that I could be standing here speaking to you this way and going back to work and starting to work out again. So thank you, Donnie.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Michael Schoen. What Roy had to say was incredible. It actually changed my entire discussion. I've had a chance to know Donnie and Jen through my wife Kathleen, and I've had a chance to see what they can do. Roy's testimonial was exactly that. And on the other side, I've had a chance to be involved with the last 7-8 years with the James Cancer Center, Ohio State. I'll give you 2 seconds of background on it. One, when the NCI came through the National Cancer Institute and did the review a year ago, it scored a perfect 10. There's only one other cancer center we know that's done that, Sloan Kettering. And as Roy said, Sloan Kettering is a machine. James is not. The gentleman who runs this, a guy by the name of Dr. Michael Caligiuri. So Dr. Caligiuri was just named president of the AACR, American Association of Cancer Research, because he is, I think, the guiding light of what we're trying to do in cancer research. Been down to Washington a couple times in the last months to meet with Biden with some of the ideas that they've generated to do stuff. I give you that background because I think it's critical that we combine what Mederi's doing with the best in class. Because I think it's incredibly important that we take what Roy's gone through, friends that we've had have gone through, and make it much larger. We've got to go beyond the anecdotal stories, and if you happen to know Donnie or you happen to be in Baltimore and close to Sinai, you can get help to where everybody gets that. And to give you an idea what Mike's like, he actually texted me on the way here, knew I was coming, and said, look, reiterate, we are 100% committed to getting this clinical trial done. Why is it taking long? Because we are going to go through an independent review board. We're going to have a clinical trial that will stand muster against anybody, right? And we have to do that because you're never going to get the acceptance nationally and internationally. You're never going to get the insurance funding. You're never going to get, the Medicare and Medicaid funding if we don't start doing top quality research, right? And the folks at the James are scrambling to figure out a way to combine, PD-L1 studies with Donnie's incredible stuff. And the important part is nobody's ever blinked, from the CEO of the hospital and the cancer center to the people that work on the test, that we need to figure this out. But we need to figure it out in a way that will stop all the doubters, all the second guessing, all the, oh, that's the, loosey-goosey, funky stuff, because the reality is it's not. It's critically important. So just leave you thinking about this fact. Donnie and what Mederi is doing is best in class. I would argue with anybody that what the James does is best in class. We are going to figure out a way to make this the study to start defining the combination of the ETMS method with classic cancer treatments. And I'm excited to be part of it. I'm honored. I'm just a spectator. I don't understand 99% of what he says or Dr. Caligiuri says, but I get that they save lives, and that's all that really matters. So thank you very much, and support Donnie as best you can. All righty? Thank you.